Another same thing we did with Flipkart PWA was that when I went to that small town in the thing, I asked him that why do you use UC browser instead of Flipkart? So he said that UC browser is 10 times faster than Flipkart. And I asked, how do you know that? And he said that because the circle spins faster. And so we just increased the speed of the circle on our loader, and then it helped our bounce rate because it gave people the impression that, oh, the website is loading faster.
Awesome. I'm Will Live. Welcome back to yet another episode on our Product Unplugged series. These are candid conversations with very senior product managers in our ecosystem. And one thing I can assure you from the ones that we've recorded so far is that these discussions are really, really fun. In today's discussion, we know Chitrak and Rohit, you all have worked together at housing. So back in the day, some of that camaraderie that we're hoping we can bring in today's conversation. And along with that, some really deep insights. You'll have worked with fantastic companies building out great products. So I'm sure it's going to be a fun discussion. And folks, stay tuned till the end. I can assure you that the rapid fire is going to bring out some of these candid conversations even more. I'll quickly start off with a very, very small intro and then welcome our guests in. Um, Rohit is currently the Associate Product Director at PhonePe. He was a vice president at Indus App Bazaar before this and built that up for almost 7 years, right? So almost ground up, and has some very interesting insights. So, Rohit, first of all, welcome to this pod. It's going to be a very interesting discussion with you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. So, has look forward for a very intellectual conversation.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Joining him today is Chitrak. Chitrak is currently a product manager at Stripe. He's been in Europe for a bit. Earlier was with Booking.com for a couple of years. And before that was with Flipkart. He's also been advising a couple of companies on the side that we're going to be chatting about. But also, if some of you all are interested to move across continents, work across geographies, I think Chitrak is going to share some insights. Welcome, Chitrak, to this pod. It's going to be exciting learning some of your journeys here.
Yeah, very, very excited to be here for having me. And yeah, if this is even half of the conversations we have offline, then yeah, it's going to be a fun one.
I'm going to try bringing some of those online, but I know lots of it will not be able to be shared on record, but let's try as much as possible. Before we go into the meat of this discussion, right, we really want to talk about growth loops. We want to talk about how you all both have been really involved in the growth of, companies in India and abroad. But before we kickstart, the serious stuff, one fun question to begin, right? Think of it as an icebreaker. But Rohit, we'll start with you. Product management at times can become complicated to explain to other folks outside of our tech industry, right? So imagine if you had to explain what you do to a 5-year-old, how would you explain product management to them?
Absolutely, a very great questions to begin the conversation. So I would actually describe it in a very simple way. So imagine that you're in a class full of extremely intelligent people who just are very brilliant at what they do, right? Somebody's really good at dance, somebody's really good at painting, somebody's really good at mathematics, somebody's really good at some sports. Now the idea is to just plan a trip and make them all agree upon the date and say that, okay, after the trip, this is the fun activity that we're going to do together, and then eventually take them to a destination, right? And the guy who basically is responsible for doing that, that's actually the product manager. So they are the ones who actually make sure that people who are extremely good at what they do in their own professional space come together, collaborate, agree upon a certain vision that they see together, make sure that they are moving in the right direction. If in case there is a roadblock, they navigate the roadblock and they eventually reach the destination, but in a very like a team and a collaborative spirit. So that's exactly how modern day product management today is. It's extremely about making sure that everybody is on the same page and just moving forward.
Bro, that's a kick-ass example, to be honest. In fact, I'm going to steal that from you. And Chitrak, I'm slightly worried how you're going to top this one. If you were to explain it to someone, what would you say?
I think first of all, I should say that this is an unsolved problem. I think there are like 10 million articles explaining what a product manager does, but I think I'm going to try my best. So I think for me, and this is how I also think about product management, is like for me, product management is a lot like a coach of a professional football team or any sports team. So like if you are in a team, you have Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, and Mbappe in your team. You will not teach them or tell them, oh, this is how you score a goal. They are the best at what they do. I think the role of a product manager is basically to take all these really professional, kick-ass people in their field, take them together, and then help them win a match. Like, are we going to play offensive? Are we going to play defensive? Which trophy are we going after? Oh, this team plays a certain style. So, how do we change our style to win this tournament? How do we manage? Do we invest in fitness? Do we what do we do? So, I think a product manager basically takes a team of professional footballers and just tweaks them, guides them, moves with them a little bit so that we end up with our eventual goal of winning a tournament. And yeah, that's how I at least also think about it. Like, don't teach Cristiano Ronaldo how to score a goal. Just tell him how to move around in the field.
Chitra, good try, but I think this round goes to Rohit. Unfortunately, a 5-year-old, nothing can beat that example. But you'll get a chance to redeem this as well in our.
Of course.
Uh,
Rohit is my senior, right? So I've learned from Rohit.
yeah, no, but yeah, no, that's a great example as well. I was just pulling you like one other interesting thing to kickstart with, I think, and this is contrasting between your journeys. Is Rohit, you did a top tier MBA degree and then decided to move back in India. Product management today has become really hot. Everyone wants to jump into it, and those who are already into it in India are probably looking for opportunities. Okay, hey, how do I go outside? Right, so the wave is there both ways. And Chitrak, maybe I'd love for you to come in on the second part. So again, to begin with you, what is that trigger that pushed you back and got you excited about coming back to in India after an MBA in London?
Sure. So I'll just the journey starts actually from my college days, right? Where I was very fascinated by while I was studying at IIT Kharagpur. I was very fascinated about how people did things globally. While in such a big college, right? You keep hearing about people moving to different countries, doing different things abroad. I had the opportunity to also travel on my own to different countries in Europe, in the US, and I got a sense of how life is very different there as compared to what it is in India. And I also had those global ambitions where I wanted to, like, after college, like, kind of sort of be in a global environment. I did my worked in Schlumberger, which is a very big oil and gas company, and they have a very global culture in place, right? Which gives you that inspiration. One thing I really learned is that while everybody else at the global level is doing some really, really great work, that entire inspiration of actually becoming better and better started in India. And that's when I actually, after once I graduated from college, that was my first job in housing, where I kind of got that environment that, yes, even in India, now startup companies are starting to build that global culture, that kind of excellence in product design, engineering, and bringing that in India. And the growth opportunity here is extremely massive. Like, for example, if you were to launch the same product and service business, let's say London or in the US, they are extremely highly matured markets, right? A lot of these problems have already been solved for maybe a couple of years back. The opportunity to do that at scale in India is right now, right? And this is what I'm talking about, a context in 2013, 14. And that's when I decided that once I'm done with my education, I'm packing up my bags again, going back to India and then solving for the home country, because that's something which I personally like had a much more personal passion towards. Like, there's a lot of inspiration and like learning to take from the global counterparts, things like that. But I just prefer that this was the right journey, at least for me, from a personal perspective.
Yeah, I think I concur with you. I think I was in Europe for a good 3 years as well, and I used to keep brainstorming with Chitrak on this. So Chitrak, on the other side, I think you've seen scale, like Rohit mentioned, at Flipkart, I'm sure, and then decided to stick around, move to Europe to explore for sure. But then again, you've been there for some time now, right? What keeps you excited about that market, and how do you curtail your excitement about the growth in the Indian market?
No, so I think, I think as Rohit and we have also discussed Suhas, that I think the growth in the Indian market, like, I very strongly believe that the next tribe will come from India, and India, like the people that you have interact with in Bangalore, and extremely high quality, like at the same level as the best people that I work with in Stripe, in Booking, etc. So there's no doubt about the potential of India. But I think for me, like what keeps me in Europe is I strongly believe in the decentralized nature of internet. You could be anywhere, you can have the same interactions. Like I haven't met Rohit in 8 years now, but I think we sync up constantly. I think you and I met with like through the internet, and then we met up in Europe, etc. So I personally don't believe that there is a border that like I'm not getting access to opportunities. I'm not getting access to people by living in Europe. I think personally for me, it actually acts as a bonus because of this constraint of not being physically present. I can now speak to everyone. So I have a very good network with people in Delhi. I have a very good people with founders in Mumbai. I have a good network with founders in Bangalore. I speak to them constantly. I also get the opportunity to interact with the European market, with the American market. So I basically get to build this muscle to be where the nice discussions and opportunities happening and not being restricted by a physical location. I think that's there from a professional perspective. I feel that my professional growth and thought process has actually improved and matured a lot more by being remote instead of just talking to the 10 people that I could speak to in Bangalore. And yeah, I think it also gives me the opportunity to switch off. So like purely from a personal lifestyle perspective, like when it gets a bit too much, like when I have to basically go into do mode and not think mode, I can just cut ties, work hard for 2 months, 3 months, get shit done, and then and then jump back into these discussions and not just get plugged into endless discussions over coffee in third wave. So yeah, for me, I think this it's the best balance for me.
I wanted to ask this towards the end of the pod, but I think it's a perfect segue to bring this in. Um, we always speak about hustle and work-life balance. It is loosely spoken about. You all both have had tastes about India and Europe, so perfect way to say this. Chitrak, you touched upon it just a way
Yeah,
that one of the major reasons that you like and you continue working there is because you're able to maintain that work-life balance.
yeah.
Could you go a little deeper into that, and then Rohit, maybe if you could
Mm.
come and share, do you miss that life? Did you choose this? Like, because at the end of the day, all of us are making choices, right? It is a trade off, right? You're trading off this growth for maybe work life balance. How do you personally look at it? Maybe Chitrak, if you could start and then we'll go to Rohit.
Yeah. So I think personally for me, I think one big myth, which at least personally is not true for me and a lot of people I know, is that like moving to Europe or staying in Europe does not mean that you're not being ambitious. It doesn't mean that you start at 10, go for coffee for 2 hours in the afternoon and end at 5. It doesn't work that way. Like I work 12, 14, 16 hours a day when I want to, and there is definitely opportunities there for that. I think for me, like both hustle culture and work-life balance, I like to think about them in individuality. At the end of the day, you should, be content about what you're doing. You should be excited about what you're doing and you should feel happy about it. As long as these three things are true, work 20 hours a day, 25 hours a day. Like, I don't care about work-life balance. I work weekends when I feel excited about stuff that I'm working on. So I don't like to be like, oh, work-life balance, no work on weekends or no work after 5 p.m. Like, if it's giving me happiness, I'll go all in. But I think like you should know what you are getting into and why you are doing it. And I think a lot of times people who burn out, I see that they're doing it because they think they should, and they're working 14 hours on things that they don't care or are not excited about, and then that hustle and then that work-life balance basically eats up into your life. So yeah, I think living in Europe, constantly gives me a sense check. Like when I'm feeling really stressed out about work or something, then I see like a 6-year-old person sitting with a hat, reading a book with a coffee next to a canal in Amsterdam. You like, yeah, I think the life will figure itself out. So it's a really good balance. I'm a person who really gravitates towards working too hard, overworking, and hustling. So for me, living in Europe counterbalances it with some good moments of chilling, realizing why you're doing all of this. And you don't have to work so hard, but you still do. And I think just having that constant reality check of knowing why you're doing this makes me actually want to work even harder. So I think that's why that setup works for me.
Very interesting. Rohit, is hustle culture overrated? What is your take?
Yeah. So I've been really fortunate so as to be actually working in companies and actually the founders with different people who have always made me feel that work is just a very creative process of creating something meaningful and actually delivering it. like I have been like apart from a couple of jobs here and there, most of my career I've spent with people who have really liked spending time, right? So for me, work has never really felt like it is something which I just have to do because it's one of the things that I need to do. That's one very positive that at least I have had in my career. I'm not sure if everybody gets that opportunity, but beyond that, I think what I really believe in now, and I am in my early 30s, but what I really advise everybody, like especially in their early days, right, early 20s or even maybe mid 20s, work for probably like longer hours, not longer hours in the sense that you're just overworking yourself, but probably spend a little bit more time in work, get to know a lot of people who you're working with, whether it's through remote setup or through a physical setup, because that really helps you develop a very strong foundation. Because otherwise, what you're doing is you're just building a very superficial touch point of maybe the things that you're supposed to do, and then you are maybe just going and doing different things. Or if you're just working very hard without actually understanding what you're working on, you're developing a very negative way of actually like doing things in a very suboptimal way. And today, like everybody, like especially anybody who's listening in the younger cohort, should really understand that why are you doing it? Is this really important? How will this help? And I've never restricted my role in terms of, like, for example, as a product guy, I've never said that I'll not do this XYZ. I've done sales, I've done marketing, I've done anything that came up to me. I've done content curation, whatever was the job that was needed to be done, because we were a 0 to 1 company at the initial stages. So it really kept me, like, while having the product title, kept me working on multiple different things. So it was just curiosity which kind of sort of led me to that hustle, what you would say, and then eventually to where we are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Great point. I think, Rohit, quantitatively, at your peak, I mean, you're still at the peak, but you mentioned, okay, early or mid 20s. How many hours would you have been working at it? I know it's not a great measure to it, but just to put, like, a lot of them think, okay, hey, 9 to 6, right? Somehow in our society, we've gotten 5 days a week, 9 to 6, right? But I don't think, and I'll tell you my personal take is, I don't think high performing people look at it that way, right? It is a societal thing, but if you were to just quantitatively help us understand.
Yeah, as I told you, right, like most of my jobs, the way we work was like in the morning you start with like just looking at your emails, looking at reports, how things are performing. So it starts right away as you wake up, maybe a couple of hours. You're just working on that. Then you're spending your actual hours in the office, and then after office you're also hanging out with colleagues. You're just talking about it. Like if I were to talk about our early days, right, and when we were at housing or different companies, like most of our people we used to live with, we used to live with the ones who would be working together. So even after we are home, we're just talking about work. So that was a very good culture and an extension to work. So you're starting your day with probably work, ending it with work. That's the kind, but you have to be interested in what you're talking about, right? Otherwise, you just get bored. And it's also very important to unplug yourself. So there were points where I used to feel that, okay, I am very saturated with ideas and also with the kind of discussions I'm having, because this is a very limited network. So I just need to meet people who are not in my background. So I had the opportunity to study at London, because of which I had a network which was beyond startups also, right? So to meet them, get a different perspective. Maybe personally I like singing or something else. So meet people who are in a very different profession, nothing to do with the startups, nothing to do with. So unplugging is important, getting different perspectives is important. But yeah, spending a significant amount of time actually learning what you're supposed to do is equally important.
Sweet, sweet. Chitrak, just before we switch tracks into the meat of our discussion today, again, one other very hot topic. I know Chitrak has been taking some shots here, so I want to bring some hot topics up front. Very, very discussed in our community, especially, is how important is an MBA, right? I think perfect opportunity where, Chitrak, you've done top tier MBA. Sorry, Rohit, you've done top tier MBA. Chitrak, I don't think you're planning to do one, at least as far as I know. Do you want to, take a stab to start with on, did you ever plan to do one? Do you see a need to do one? And if not, why not? And then Rohit, maybe if you could come back and then share a more rational perspective on, what doors MBA open to you, and is that still valid specifically for product management today?
Sure.
Yeah. I think, maybe I can take this one. So I think, like, maybe as you would have noticed from some of my answers, like, I'm big on remote work, and I don't think you should, like, live and you could live anywhere. I've not done an MBA. So I think these are all, to me, privileges. So, like, you are giving up something to get something. So like the life in Europe I have, but I am physically away from like the city where the hustle bustle is happening. So you have to earn that privilege. You have to like work extra hard to make your network, your connections, find the right people to talk to. So personally for me, I like doing that, like identifying what skills I need and then finding a way to get those skills. So for me personally, I did not see a lot of value that an MBA could provide me because I felt that, I could, maybe I'm wrong, right? In 20 years I'll find out, but I like, I could find the right people to talk to, get the right books, documents, etc., and learn from the right people. And so far, it has not hindered in me in my journey at all. So I think short answer, I don't think you need an MBA, but if you make that decision, like you'll basically get 2 years to work instead of doing an MBA, and a lot of money you will save that you would have probably spent on an MBA. So now it's up to you how you use those 2 years and how you use that money. Like, can you maybe get more out of that time and money than by doing an MBA? I don't think you need an MBA to get into product. A lot of PMs, great PMs that I admire, don't have an MBA. Does it make your life easier? Maybe. If you're someone who thinks that you're going into a structured program can get you a baseline level of skills, yeah, sure. I think maybe I think an MBA does that. So it's a personal call. Wasn't right for me, but I think maybe Rohit can talk about what skills you can get baseline that if you do an MBA.
Yeah. Maybe tactically also, Rohit, you can share without the factor of luck. I think, like Chitrak mentioned, maybe there is a certain privilege slash right time, right place. I think Chitrak, for you also, you moved at the right time. But if someone was to discount that factor, tactically, where would you be on, MBA or not?
I think there are two ways to look at it. One is from an pure educational and academic standpoint. So very early on, like for example, both my parents are doctors. So since childhood, I've been a very like firm believer in education and a structured way to learn things and then go and demonstrate those skills in the market. Right. So for me, getting a formal education just was something that came naturally to me. That was a part of my upbringing. Now the question is whether or not to do it in India or to do it like outside of India. So when I was actually like both Chitrak and I come from IIT backgrounds, right? And because of the fact that we were in that kind of institution from the get go, we have those kind of like advantages that you will know certain people, you will know certain like really high pedigree people because of the fact that they're either a college seniors or somebody who you know, and you can get those kind of initial like barriers very quickly crossed, right? So that's probably how we ended up in our respective product management profiles, right? But I get this asked a lot of whether or not you can even become a PM if you don't have these kind of like good backgrounds, and that's a very practical problem that most people will have, right? And even so, now that we started these careers where in 2012, 2013, back then it was still a very new profession in India, right? While it might be something which is established maybe in the Western markets, but even to it's hard for people to understand what product manager is today. Imagine how hard it was for people to even understand what it was in 2013, 14, right? So it was easy at that point in time to get into this profession and then start building your career into this. Today, I feel it's much harder. People have a lot of competition within internally. The aspiration for different people, like for example, not just fresher, you're also competing with people who have, let's say, a couple of years of engineering, data analytics, design background, right? So you have to like weigh those options out. Specifically coming back to the MBA point, see, at the end of the day, education from a big college, right, gives you a lot of network, gives you that kind of brand recognition, it gives you that kind of structured learning process. A lot of what I do in my job today, which is basically creating a business plan, strategy plan, a go-to-market plan, something where I'm able to talk to CXO level like people, and I'm not talking about CXO level in startups. I'm talking about CXO level in global companies. People who are in their 50s, 60s. They're extremely polished individuals. So because of the fact that I was at LBS, I was able to spend time in campus interacting with these kind of pedigree of people, right? So I was just not in my program. I was interacting with people who were bankers of extremely big companies, and the ones we have all heard about, who are in my campus physically available to me. I'm just learning from them. So it gives you a certain amount of maturity that you kind of sort of do not otherwise have in a very early stage. You will get there,
Yeah.
You might take maybe a longer. You might have to have a very, very good and a hardworking nature, like for example, what Chitrak mentioned. But you need to have that self-realization. You have to work enough hard. For most people, that might be a longer time to figure it out. So that's how I would put it as a perspective. But very rightly said, the costs are something that you need to weigh. You need to see whether or not an opportunity cost fits your bill. Today, in the next 2 years, things will completely randomly, very rapidly change. The opportunity cost is too high. So weigh in those factors, make a decision that works for you, rather than some like these are all independent journeys, right? All of us have our own journeys. You need to just figure out what your journey is and what's right for you. There's no right answer to it, to be very honest.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think a lot of balance points on both front. Chitrak, one thing very nicely Rohit put, maybe the education part is still something, the structured learning, what they say. And from what I understood, what Rohit mentioned, MBA can be a great career accelerator, right? If you look at it from that angle. One thing is, do you think it's as easy to build a network outside? Yes, learning today, you can decentralize it. But how many bankers would you be able to sit with if you do not have an LBS degree? Is there a tactical approach to building a network, if not for a top tier pedigree?
So I think like one example, so I don't think you have an MBA and you know everyone on in Bangalore and on Earth probably. So yeah, I think maybe we should all take tactical tips from you on how to build a network. But yeah, I think jokes aside, yeah, as I said, it's harder. You are giving up something. So like I think I personally believe that if you do what everyone is doing, you can hit a baseline, but you won't have an edge. So to build an edge, you have to take a bet. And so it is harder. You have to go out of your way to, like example, keeping in touch with people, keeping in touch with ex-managers, asking them for opportunities, asking, like, just spending time in an environment to build network and then following up there. So it's not easy. Like, you will not get it on a plate. You have to work hard. But personally, for me, in my journey, I've felt that has been more, you know, like I think useful for me, because I think the network that I've built by like doing something for someone, helping them out, putting in the effort to build that relationship, etc. I think that has gone, like for example, like some of the network that I've built after IIT is like more closer to me, and something that I can rely more on than maybe some of the network that I built in IIT, because it was a given for me. And I think when you build a relationship with someone, I think because it's reciprocal and goes both way, I found it to be worth a lot more. So yeah, it's harder, but you have to put in the effort, and once you do that, I think then it's then you can reap the rewards of it. So
Yeah,
just
completely
put
agree
in the work.
with that. Because see, even if you are going to an MBA, even if you are going for it, right, the network is there, but you have to still do that hard work, right? The only thing it will get you is the access to the network is easier. Here, the access is way more difficult. But at the end of the day, everybody has to do that bit of hard work. It's just maybe 10x difficult here, it's 5x there, but it's more than what you probably think is needed to just get to. Yeah, that's I think the right way to conclude this.
No. Thanks for sharing that perspective, guys, and thanks for keeping it so real. Honestly, I know I spent more time on this section that I'd that usually, but I think really enjoying the banter on both sides, because very often we miss out on nuances, right? MBA is needed, MBA is not needed. Europe is great, Europe is lax, India is fast, but there's so much nuance to it which gets missed, right? And I think that is something that I'm personally enjoying on both sides. But I think it's time to now go deeper into the product management fundamentals. And I think y'all have done some amazing stuff that I'd love to chat about today. And 2-3 topics that we picked up, and to begin with, I think Rohit, you spent significant time with Indus App Bazaar. And for those who don't know, Indus App Bazaar is an India-focused Android app store that runs Samsung's default app store. And today that's in over, I think, 250 million users in India, 1 in every 3 Indian users. Rohit will share maybe the latest numbers. This is what I could pick up from his LinkedIn. But almost 7 years in, Rohit, how was that experience right from beginning to competing with giants? Right? All of us know how hard it must be with the duopoly that Google and Apple here. If you could just help us understand a little bit more, and then we'll go deeper.
Sure, absolutely. So I think my journey started with Indus OS about 7 years back when I met Rakesh, Akash, and Sui, the three co-founders. So back then, it was very early stages in the technology in India also. Like smartphones was about 300, 400 million users in India. There was a conversation about the next billion users, right? We are still about 700, 800 million smartphone users as of right now. We'll hit a billion users very soon. But what's very important to understand is that mostly the way technology has worked in India is that it was created for a very global audience, right? Maybe in early 2000, something was created for maybe a US market, or maybe then taken it up to a European market. And then when everything was saturated there, they took it to the Indian market, and that's how the consumer adoption really worked. Like whether we talk about for laptops or Windows, for anything that we have actually used as a form factor to access internet, right? Everything was created globally for a global persona, and then that was transported to India and was kind of sort of assumed that the top educated class will start using it, and then uh, everybody will eventually catch up, right? That's how the traditional like way of product development has been. What we realized was that while works really well for people like you and me and Chitrak, there's a very big market in India who does not completely understand or who does not have a similar kind of an experience, right? India is a mobile first market. More than half of the people who are actually using internet are using it very first time through a mobile smartphone. People in India, less than 30%, 40% only know how to properly read and write in English. Conversation, typing, all of these are a very big problem. People do not have email IDs, right? As simple as that. I mean, if you're a shopkeeper, let's say in Rajasthan, you don't really need an email ID. Why would you need that? Right? So these are very basic things that you do not have in as you go like beyond the top 100 million users in India. So these are very basic problems that we started solving with App Bazaar as well as IndusOS, where we wanted to create an operating system experience as well as an app store experience, which is very true to the Indian users, making it available, making it completely free of any email ID dependency, making it free of any kind of a language dependency. You can use it in Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, whatever. Solving for access gets us up from about 10 to 15% of just the market to 98% just by solving for language. Right. So these are the very basic things that you would probably intuitively think of in maybe a drawing room conversation, but we actually went ahead and implemented those things and had an overnight success of maybe about which took about more than 7-8 years to do that.
Chitrak, I know at Flipkart you did work upon the PWA product, and this was a couple of years ago. So while this third app marketplace was coming up, was it the talk of town internally? Because of course, Flipkart is one of the largest giants in the e-commerce industry. You might have been looking at Google, Apple for sure. Was this also on your radar? Was it as actively looked upon?
So I think maybe not as actively as App Store and Play Store initially, because that's where at least the bulk of downloads come from. But I think once Flipkart also started to focus on the next billion users, and like the reason we launched the PWA, etc. I think understanding and building for the right audience, and then understanding like where do they go and download the app. So like for example, yeah, there's App Bazaar and then UC browser, App Store, and all of these things were definitely on the radar and were being discussed to see, okay, what do these users feel? Like for example, in PWA, I think maybe the metrics would be very different now, but a massive chunk of our volume used to come from UC browser. And like when I first joined the team, I never even heard of it. What is this UC browser? And so we went for user research in towns in Kanpur, like small towns outside of Kanpur. Lucknow, I spent like 2 weeks there interviewing housewives, school teachers, etc. Like a mind-boggling experience. Like one insight that I can share, which might be interesting, is like when I was doing the research and I asked them, like, trying to buy something on Flipkart, and they were afraid of clicking on buy now. And I said that, why are you not clicking on buy now? They thought that we will deduct money from their mobile phone prepaid balance and order this. So because in their head, when they click Airtel, etc., you would click something, a hello tune, you would get connected and you would lose 30 rupees. They were afraid of clicking buy now on Flipkart because they thought, money will go from there. UC browser. So like when they would open, so they would all use UC browser because they thought UC browser is one app which has every app in it. Yeah. So they would click on the Flipkart icon on UC browser, Flipkart would open, and then they would say, why would I install the Flipkart app when UC browser has the Flipkart app in it. And and you could download songs, you could download movies, you could download memes, jokes, etc. from the UC browser itself. So yeah, I think so. Like we also did a lot of effort in understanding these small nuances that Rohit mentioned. That hey, like changing the buy now color and first user experience. Like don't show a washing machine on the landing page if somebody from a tier 2 city is opening Flipkart for the first time. They will not buy a 10,000 rupee washing machine, maybe show something cheaper. So yeah, so I think like the PWA, it became our largest user acquisition channel for Flipkart at that point. And it was like these small tweaks. Like don't force a login on the first go, let them use the app, figure out what the app is, and then go to the next step. So yeah, I think lots of small things to really build products for the next set of users.
We're going to go deeper into that. I think that's exactly where the next question comes in. But Rohit, did you ever have a conversation with the Flipkart team? I think Flipkart definitely would have been a big opportunity for you. You cracked Samsung, which is huge. But any anecdote where you tried, pushing the team, that anything of that sort?
Yeah. So as I told you, right, while my role says product, I've been doing sales. So sales is like two parts. One is OEM sales. You can go and convince handset manufacturers like Carbon, Microsoft, Carbon, Lava, Cellcon, uh, Samsung, and everybody. Like we work with 12 different OEMs, and we distributed our operating system as well. So my interactions with them, their leaderships directly. One another part was also to basically help my sales team convince different app developers to basically distribute their apps on our platform. Be it Flipkart, be it PhonePe, be it anybody else, like all the big app developers, the Times Group, and everybody else, we were having these conversations. So while we had a dedicated sales team, but I would also always be a part of those conversations, because at the end of the day, while we are like intuitively, it comes to our mind that we're building for the consumer, we are also building for the app developer at the end, right? Because they are the real paying customers. They are the ones who are going to come to your platform, distribute their apps, and that's a very important part of our overall product strategy. It's not just about consumers; it's also about developers. So yeah, we've been interacting with them throughout, and multiple other such developers. We are very grateful that they've been a part of our ecosystem, had success with along with us.
Rohit, while we'd love to hear a little deeper on the monopoly, the duopoly, and know your thoughts on this, I'd just love to bring in Chitrak also here. Chitrak, I know you worked on the growth side at all your stints, right? I had a curious question for you. I know you've been for 4 good long years at Booking, and the pandemic was right in the middle. And I'm sure the travel sector got really impacted, maybe the maximum in this part. You've seen the high, you've seen the low, and as far as I know, I think travel is back to pre-pandemic levels, if not higher. Any interesting insights, anecdotes that you can share on how this bounce back came through, and some anecdotal examples?
Yeah, 100%. So I think first thing is that I think everyone, I hope, or at least most people in Booking believe that travel is not a leisure thing. I think it speaks to the soul. Like I think I personally travel a lot, and I think a lot of people in Booking travel a lot. So I think we all fundamentally believe that people want to travel, and it's something. It's like food. Like everybody, irrespective of their economic situation, appreciate good food. I think similarly, people want to get out of their environment, go to a new. It's a very human thing to explore and be curious about it. So I think even when the pandemic hit, I think internally everybody was convinced that there's no way, travel as an industry is going to go away. It's only going to grow up. So I was also very bullish on the company. Everybody else in the company was also very bullish. I don't think there was any concern that, oh shit, we lost our revenue. How is it going to come back? We were all confident that once COVID goes away and relaxation comes, the humanity will figure out a way to travel. So we just had to be prepared for our users that, when they come back, we should have the right assurance, right product, right content, like enable them to travel. There was no question in our mind that was this gonna come back or when is it gonna come back. I think so. Apart from that, luckily Booking is a very large company. They had a lot of money in the bank, so there was like no concerns around how much runway do we have, etc. So I think a lot of investment went into understanding what would be the concerns of users when they come back. Like free cancellations, providing them with insurance covers, and think like there was a lot of investment made on that side of the things to make users feel comfortable that hey, it is okay to travel. If there's an issue, we'll take care of that. So I think there's a lot of investment that went there. From an anecdotal perspective, I think I want to share something that's very unique about booking that I've seen across all the companies that I've worked with. Is that I think it's the most first principle company that I've worked with. You will rarely see somebody saying that, oh, so we have this 50-year vision and then we'll break it down into this and then this, and then so we'll do this. It's very simple. They'll say, we think people want A, so we will do A. So I think what Booking has done is that they have a massive experimentation platform. So if you have an idea, you can just ship it. You have an idea, you come back to work, you speak to two people, you excite them. If they're excited, you can ship it, and you can see how it performs with A/B testing, etc. So you don't have to get an approval, find a designer, get some sign off before you launch a new project. Another thing that Booking used to do, I don't know if they do it anymore, is that they used to give a certain budget to every employee working on the front end products to travel for free. So everybody had to basically, make a report on what went well, what went bad. So because everybody is doing different kinds of travel, somebody's traveling with kids, somebody's traveling with friends, somebody's traveling solo. We used to get so many insights. I was confused that how would my Amex card get charged? Will it get charged in dollars or will it get charged in euros? And stuff like this. So people would come back with very small, seemingly, like nobody would care about this, and they would run experiments, and then it would suddenly become like massive money churners for the company. So I think like one thing that I was really amazed to learn at Booking is that a vast majority of the successful experiments that Booking does are copy changes. So it's not coding, it's not machine learning, it's not algorithm, it's nothing. It's just explaining what you're doing more clearly. And instead of saying book now, if it says that this is the final step, or if you say that, we will charge your card after this step, that just reduces cancellations, increases conversion. Like I think one interesting example was that like when you click on the final confirm booking, you see this loader that's been sending to the hotel coming back. All of that happens actually instantly, but users are like, maybe something went wrong. How could it be so fast? So it was added purposefully, to make it feel like, we are doing this. We are making sure that we have the right information. We redisplay that information while that circle is spinning, so that the user feels more at peace. They feel that sense of wow, that okay, yes, I'm excited going to that trip. So it gives them that happiness, and then they feel excited about that trip, and that actually improved cancellation rate. So yeah, I think a lot of small experiments like this. I think Booking is a very interesting case study. Everybody should study.
Very interesting. It's like if it comes in instantly, you'll be okay. Is this even right?
Yeah.
But like if I'm talking to a travel agent, he might just click some buttons to check something. So you're making it feel like okay, the machines are actually calculating which is the best trip, best price, searching across your deal.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting insight.
Yeah. I think,
Chitra,
another same thing we did with Flipkart PWA was that when I went to that small town in the thing, I asked them that why do you use UC browser instead of Flipkart? So he said that UC browser is 10 times faster than Flipkart. And I asked, how do you know that? And he said that because the circle spins faster. And so we just increased the speed of the circle on our loader, and then it helped our bounce rate because it gave people the impression that, oh, the website is loading faster.
Very interesting. Rohit, you were saying something?
Yeah, I think one very good part about Booking is that a lot of these case studies are actually published online. And I really like that, because at the end of the day, right, you sitting in India or any part of in the world, you're able to actually learn from different very small things, but which might seem trivial to you, but it's really working at scale. And that kind of like sharing of information, especially with a large, right, because they will share it with their competitors, they'll share with someone who would come and do the same thing, but just out of curiosity and the goodwill of sharing these things, I think they are a very good example. You'll find a lot of tons of case studies as well.
Exactly.
I think one thing I read was that like typically it happens, right? The local taxes are always not included, but then they included that local tax. That's just price transparency, right?
Yeah.
If I'm paying 4,000, but then no, I'm paying 5,000. No, that doesn't work. You'll pay 5,000, but that's just one extra is the case, and that kind of sort of helps them also. So just reading about those things, making sure that everything is right, is a big part of how product managers in general are also learning. So I think anybody who's listening to this conversation should actually go and read those case studies. They're really, really great.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, I remember back in the day we hosted someone from Booking, and one thing that I still remember from that conversation is like he's 100% of our decisions are data backed, right? Everyone talks about how important it is. But he's like engine, and maybe Chitrak, you might be able to throw some light, but this is what I remember from back in the day. Is that see, product managers come with biases, right? We all have intuition, and yes, not everyone's a Steve Jobs, right? If everyone was there, then we would have seen some fantastic. But yes, there might be some outliers who are, very, very intuitive. But 99%, if you can remove, and it's not easy to do this, all of us come with biases, but they've been able to build a culture where every decision is now fed in by, okay, hey, if data says this, keep your biases aside, keep your intuitions aside. Maybe there might be a mistake in something, but let's go with this. Chitrak, would you be able to corroborate on this, or how is it?
Yes, I think booking is definitely a very strong data back culture. Everything needs to be an experiment. Like I've even heard of stories where back-end refactoring have been put in as an experiment. Like, why did you do this 3 months of work if it did not derive any value to the customers? Very customer centric. At the end of the day, every effort that you're making should help the customer in some way or the other. So I think those things, very, very definitely. I think also it's I think it works both ways. So it gives you so much of a reality check that your intuition improves massively when you constantly run these experiments and learn from data. So I think it's a like a it's a really big wheel where you have a hypothesis, you learn from it, it improves your hypothesis making ability, and then like the probability of success of your experiments also goes up massively. So, yeah, I think booking is a really great example on how to run A/B experiments at scale. Like, of course, they have their own issues with the implementation and stuff, but I think overall, lots to learn there.
Absolutely. Chitrak, Rohit, I know if we get deeper into growth and product management, this pod is never getting over given the amount of consumer insights you'll have. But slightly switching tracks, I think, Rohit, you also mentioned you're an active angel investor on your LinkedIn profile. Chitrak, I know you've been advising a couple of companies. There are a lot of senior product leaders who maybe stepped into the market last year, given the frenzy. But also, I think there's a specific value add they can bring to the table, and that is very useful for early stage founders. How has your journey been, especially for founders tuning into this? If you were given 60 seconds each, what do you all bring to the table? Maybe you could share experiences as well, and some companies you've backed. But in 60 seconds, a reverse pitch of sorts, what do you bring to the table apart from capital, of course?
You want to
Who wants to go first? I'm okay. Anyone?
Okay, I can go
Rohit,
first.
do you want? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I think the first thing is that founder's job is very difficult. I think if any product manager thinks that they can do it better than the founder, they're kidding themselves. So I think as a product manager in typical PM fashion, you should look for what you can bring to the table and not try to improve what the founder is doing. So I think apart from regular stuff around product strategy, product feedback, UX, and all of that stuff, which is like baseline a PM can do, I think one thing where I have felt that I've added a lot of value is I think as the company starts to grow from product market fit to larger, founders start to face issues that they did not anticipate in velocity, hiring, culture, making the right product, etc. So, which are, I think, a lot of them are is stuff that they don't expect, and it's a little frustrating for them. They're still like, I didn't have this issue before. Why do I have it now? I think these are things that I've seen in larger companies. I've seen in other startups that I've worked with. So it's a pattern, and I think helping founders identify these gaps, helping them to basically prevent mistakes that every startup goes through, and then just like stepping a few steps. I think those are areas where I felt that I've added a lot of values to the startups that I advise.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Rohit, any particular sectors also that you'd like to add in?
Yeah, so I think like the decision to actually be a part of like maybe that entire angel investor, right? So I think it's overhyped also, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to like, it's not just that you're providing capital, but what you really are doing is you're very excited about what else can you do, like whatever wisdom that you have accumulated over time through multiple failures that you have done in your own journey. can you help someone else avoid those mistakes and grow faster? Right? That's probably that's essentially boils down to it, because whatever we learned over a period of a decade, we've learned it through trial and error, and probably failing at more things rather than succeeding, right? So we're just telling, hey, this is something which we have tried. Do this. This is something which will probably be highly more likely to work. Try and do this, and then ultimately letting them take their company forward. I think that's how I think we should all add values to anybody. Like, not just in the terms of whether or not we're giving them capital, but just mentoring, advising, or just having the overall ecosystem grow together. Because these are the guys who will eventually work with you in the future. You spend money on your platform, you work with them in the future, anything of that sort.
I think for anybody looking to get into angel investment, like at least what I have, like I've been involved in 4 to 5 companies so far, and not as an investor, but more as a consultant. And I think the gap that I've noticed between, like when I talk to product managers and I talk to founders, I think 99% product managers don't understand what founders need, or what it is to run a company. So, and I was in the same category. I think I would very strongly advise to become a free resource to a founder, saying that, hey, I'm here. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to write an email draft? Want me to create a Figma file? I've done all of that. I've become a support agent for founders to give them insights. I think that gave me such a good view to understand how a founder thinks, what is important to them, what is not important to them, to understand how to add value. So I think before unless you're only giving them capital, I would very strongly recommend just become a resource, offer them free help for a few months. That will give you so much understanding of what do they need. Like, they don't need you to help them with product strategy. They spend more time with the user than you do, so they know more what's going on. I think it's understanding those nuances is where the money is.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I think great insights for folks really starting off. We have the rapid fire next, so I'm going to ask you who your favorite founders are. I know that's a very hard question. That's why I'm giving you some time and a bump up there. But Rohit, Chitra, both of y'all have worked with each other 8 years ago, maybe even more at housing, right? So let's try something here. Let's try picking if you could do a career switch, right? Both of y'all did meet each other almost a decade ago. Rohit, if you were to think of Chitrak back then to where he is today, and Chitrak likewise, same for Rohit, what kind of career trajectory would you have imagined Chitrak to go through? Is it close to where he is right now? And where do you think the future lies?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I met Chitrak, he was a freshly out of college, a grad who had a very good perspective. You usually meet someone and you kind of sort of get a sense of how mature these guys are, right? And I've always seen Chitrak to be way ahead in terms of maturity as his age was, right? And today, things are very different. But seeing that same level of maturity that he's talking with today, for someone who's just freshly out of college, was something which came out very strongly to me. And from that lens, I think if not in a PM space or consulting space, I would probably think of him maybe at starting his career maybe as an analyst in some VC firm, and then eventually going to a top leadership there. That's probably my alternative for Chitrak.
Nice. That's probably something he's doing on the side. Somehow this feels like a pure feedback session to me. But yeah, why don't you go for this?
Yeah, so I think I don't know, when Rohit joined us in housing, he was housing was a bunch of college kids put together trying to build something. And I think then Rohit and a few other senior leaders came in, okay, maybe we can learn product management from these folks. He did his MBA in London at that time, which was a big deal for us. We were I think very interesting. We used to go to him with questions like, hey, this is what we're thinking, how do we go about that, etc. So I think all of us learned a lot from him at that point of time. I think I was actually very pleasantly surprised, for I think after housing, he continued to work with, weddings.com, if I remember, and then, I think it does have App Bazaar, etc. So I think not your run of the mill, because he had also worked in Flipkart, etc. before. So, not your run of the mill going to big e-commerce companies and, having a traditional PM career growth, but I think a little bit more on, a non-conventional path. So I was actually very impressed that he chose to go down that road and then get the success that he had. yeah, I think I would love for him to continue doing that. I think PhonePe is again a little bit more structured and conventional. So yeah, I think it'd be great if we can see him create another in this app bazaar, and then it would be nice for him to join a small startup and make it big.
Nice. Also, moving into the last segment, but one of my most favorite. This one's called Hot or Not, and a slight rapid fire followed by some tough questions for both Chitrak and Rohit. Kicking this right off, Rohit, we'll begin with you, and then Chitrak, you can follow right up. Two options, you got to choose one right off the top of your head. First up, growth or profitability, especially in this market.
Definitely profitable growth.
Profitable growth, nice. Chitra?
Yeah, I think I'll side with Rohit as well. I think profitable growth.
Yeah, I think many of these might be similar. But next up, data or intuition? What kind of a PM are you?
So intuition works well when you are building 0 to 1 because you don't have data. But once you have data, it's really good to actually back your intuition with data.
Yes. Chitra, is that
Yeah, I think for me, it's conviction. So I think conviction comes from user research, knowing the domain, data, experiments. So yeah, I think conviction. So it depends on how strongly do you feel about it, and all of this plays a part in it. It can't be just data or just qualitative.
Got it. I'm going to switch tracks because it looks like more of a plus one when it comes to the professional. Morning person or night owl? How do you guys like working?
I prefer working like later in the day, not a morning person at all.
Morning. I think early in my career. But I think last 2-3 years I've become a morning person.
Age is catching up, Chitra. Android or iOS? Where you guys? What fanboys are you?
Android. Hardcore Android. I hate iOS.
So there's a bias there. While all of my user base is on Android, I prefer personally using iOS.
Yeah. Okay.
Rohit and I actually had a debate on this in housing on the terrace. I don't know if you remember. We had like half an hour, 1 hour.
Discussion. Yeah, we had a very, very intense discussion. Very opposite. Try to kind of see that we're still in the same page.
Yeah. So at least one point of differentiation there. But in today's, wherever you're at, right, both of you are probably leading teams, innovation or optimization, where are you spending time?
Again, 0 to 1, you have to basically innovate. There's no way otherwise you will be able to win a market. But once you've grown to a certain extent, optimization becomes extremely, extremely critical, like probably the majority part where you spend time on.
Yeah. Rohit, would it be right to say you're spending more time on optimization today?
So a bit of both. So we are launching new things where the majority of the focus is on 0 to 1 and innovation, and whatever we're doing at scale, the optimization is more at focus there.
Nice. Chitrak?
Yeah, I think as of today, right now, most of my time is on innovation, but I think you can't get away with optimization. I think it's also you need that optimization loop to understand what to innovate. You can't, just continue innovating every day. So both go hand in hand.
I read this very interesting article somewhere where it says that in order to get the first couple of points on the market share, you really need innovation. But in order to dominate the market, you need optimization.
Interesting. I'm very, very interesting. I'm going to now stop the professional one because it's going to be a plus one. So I'm getting back into the personal one. A high salary versus work-life balance. High salary, low work-life balance, or greater work-life balance and moderate salary.
Yeah. I think this is a very personal thing that I discovered when I was at LBS, right? So I kind of sort of definitely everybody aspires for a very, very good pay right away after that they are enter into the professional world, right? So what I realized was that the good part about product management is that you can have some bit of a work-life balance while also being able to earn on the good part of what people would consider. That's typically not happening in finance. Let's say if you're a banker or if you're maybe someone working in the investment space, usually you get paid more, doesn't have as much work-life balance, or even as a consultant. So I think that was a very good eye-opener, probably one thing why I gravitated towards product management. So yeah, if you do go to a business school, you'll see people who have practically lived their lives. So that was something which worked for me, at least for my personal.
On that 2x2 matrix, you probably found the sweetest spot then.
Yes,
Right.
to be honest, yes.
Nice.
And it happened accidentally, to be very honest.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, I think for me, I define work-life balance as being excited about what I do, and so I would definitely choose that over, like do I feel pumped on a Monday morning or not, than a higher salary. But I think I also believe that if you're very excited and passionate about what you're doing, over time it compounds and then you create enough value and then you make money. So I would definitely 100% go towards
Got it. Yeah, I think I guessed that one for you. But I'll go now slightly deeper to end this section. But some very interested, pinpointed questions. First up on buzzwords, right? Last year it was Web3. This year it is AI and GPT, and we're seeing resurgence. AI was always hot, but we're seeing resurgence. Um, on your personal experience, and this is specifically something that I'm seeing in our community, that there is slight FOMO, right? And as product managers, we're probably always expected to stay ahead of the curve. If there is some new technology that comes in, it becomes our job to at least learn and understand what it is, and then whether or not to apply it in our product roadmap is the decision we need to make. But it is not easy, right? Imagine if
Yeah.
every cycle like this, today it is GPT, we know 6-12 months, at least from what history says, 6-12 months it's going to be something different. Personally, how are y'all tackling this, and any tips and tricks or suggestions to our community?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that you really need to know is you need to know what are your fundamentals and what are your like fundamental values. Let's say I come from an LBS background, which is a very hardcore finance school, very deep in its root in its traditional way in which they imagine money. So for me, industries like crypto or anything which was like something which did not have a traditional or a centralized sense, it did not relate to me, at least as a person. So I kind of sort of had this reservation always, and I did not like get into that FOMO route. So that's just how it happened for me. So I kind of sort of were able to stay focused. Yeah. So from that standpoint, I think I was able to like control my emotions over FOMO, especially on the crypto side. But yeah, I think as product managers, you always need to like stay on top of the game of the new technologies that is coming up. One thing that is really promising, especially with the AI revolution, it is like especially after ChatGPT is very tangible. We've been all hearing about AI, right? Since we have entered into this technology industry, very few of us have really understood in a deep sense what it can do for the customer, for an end user at scale. So I think with ChatGPT, people have been able to just see the form factor. So, like for example, I think Bill Gates has said that this is probably the next biggest innovation that he sees after the graphical user interface, and coming in from him, who's probably spent his entire life looking at innovative technologies and products since past 78 years. If that's the kind of statement which comes in with such a weight, I'm sure that it's going to stay and it's going to change the way we all work. I'm personally using it, so I'm really liking the way it is transforming effectiveness, productivity. So I think this is something which will stay.
Nice.
It's not typical FOMO kind of a wave. It will definitely die out and will be concentrated to more specific use cases rather than the entire buzzword it is. But it's definitely going to change the way in which consumers use internet technology and everything that we see today.
Very interesting. Are you also using it in your personal? You mentioned productivity. Are you particularly using maybe GPT or any of these in your?
Yes, I think me, my team, a lot of us, we've been doing it, using it for research, for just playing it around, actual work, everything. So you have to use it with a construct that it is not absolutely accurate. It will get you to do something. You have to also put your brains into it. So just like you would do a Google search and then you would actually spend time reading articles and then doing your own bit of a research. So you have to kind of sort of do that as well. But it's just more 10 times more faster to come to a conclusion as compared to what it was traditionally. That's my perspective. I would love to hear some like thing offline as well later.
Yeah, for sure. Chitrak, what is your take on this?
Yes, I think you mentioned two parts to it, right? One is staying on top of technologies, and the second is how do you handle the FOMO, adding it in roadmap. And I believe, like maybe like more VC funded companies, like, oh, you need to have something around AI in your pitch now, etc. So I think the first thing is, yeah, there's no way around it. I think if you are a PM, you need to at least know what's going on in the industry. You should to be able to have a conversation about new technologies. Then that's part of the job, and that's the expectation that we should be aware. So I don't think you can get away with it. Like be it blockchain, be it AI, be it whatever the next new thing is coming up. You need to know what's going on, even if you're not an expert in it. So I think, yeah, that's also, I think most PMs are curious by nature. So like they know all this stuff. It's very rare that found a PM who has no idea what's going on in the industry. So I think that's the first bit. I think second bit around adding it to our roadmap and all of that stuff. I think all of this needs to be very grounded in who your users are and what do they need. Like if blockchain solves the problem for you, use it. If AI solves the problem for you, use it. If it doesn't solve, then don't insert it just for the sake of it because that will not work out. And like even I have faced, like like I've heard of scenarios where it's like, oh, do we need to do something about it? I think the more conviction you have in your problem space and your user needs, the easier it would be for you to also, push back on, hey, this does not make sense. And the less you are unsure about what needs to happen, the easier it would be for this FOMO to creep in. So, yeah, I think that's how at least I look at these technologies. Then that being said, this whole chat GPT revolution is like mind boggling. So yeah, I also use it massively in almost everything I do. Like even when I'm traveling, I will just pick up 50 things that I think I can do and then ask it to create an itinerary for me or, like stuff that I have, like this me recipes and that kind of stuff. So yeah, like it's mind boggling. It will make its way in probably a lot of domains in one way or the other. So yeah, we should definitely keep an eye out on, how it can add value to your product.
Yeah, I think super exciting times. In fact, next month we're planning to host an AI cohort and hackathon. So even we're pretty, as a community, pretty excited about it. And I think Chitrak, while researching about this, I read that OpenAI and Stripe have also announced some kind of a partnership.
Yep.
So, like you mentioned, I think the next 12 months, especially, are going to be very, very interesting for product managers per se.
Yeah.
5 years from now, how much of our jobs are going to get automated is also going to be a very interesting take, right?
Yeah.
But one targeted question for both of you, which I think might be a harder one, but I'm sure it's not so hard for you. But Chitrak, to start off with, on every fintech product manager's head in India, is Stripe has been trying so hard. And disclaimer, I know you're representing personal and not Stripe here. Just from a personal point of view, um, Stripe has done very, very successful stuff on the global level, but we don't see the footprint in India as much as we'd have expected in the last couple of years. Any challenges that you see here? Where does the roadmap look like from a personal point of view and not from a company point of view?
Yeah. So I think Stripe overall as a company is very agile. I've seen that, they, like for example, with like this OpenAI partnership and stuff like that, I think they, move very quickly. I think Stripe, India is definitely a market that is like, something that our leadership is monitoring and, is excited about. A lot of the innovation in India around UPI and QR codes, etc., gets discussed constantly. I think there's a lot of regulatory, issues as well on like the negative side. It's also like I think the digitization of the regulatory side and the government bodies in India also gets very positively talked about internally at Stripe. So yeah, I think Stripe has a strong presence in terms of like we have an office in Bangalore. Stripe also recently did an acquisition of a company called Reco. So we have a lot of PMs and people from here. So I think we have a good understanding of what the market is, what it takes, etc. And yeah, I think I think it depends on company priorities and like how we decide and when we decide to make a stronger push, but definitely not forgotten or something that is not cared about. I think another very strong angle that Stripe looks at India is users selling into like non-Indian users selling to customers in India. I think given that India has such a strong population, I think that's also another angle with which we need to evaluate our users' needs, which like maybe that where we are uniquely positioned for that market. And I think that's also the same actually like booking has a strong presence in India, like relatively strong because of that. Like I think all non-Indians traveling to India use booking, and that's a very good way to get inventory, especially get premium inventory, because to sell to Europeans and Americans you need to be on booking. So yeah, I think that's also one way to look.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think cross-border is becoming hot again today, and that's a huge problem to solve. And global companies like Stripe are pretty well positioned, but maybe offline we'll take the more tactical one. Rohit, would love for you to come in if you have some views. I know, like you shared with us, Indus did get acquired by PhonePe, and now you're leading a team there. Uh, two separate questions for you. One, what are you most excited about?
Absolutely. So I think all startups have their own life cycle, right? So PhonePe was in our cap table since a very long time, and I think the founders here, the team here, it's very, very revolutionary. I think there's nothing that I can add which can add to the merit and the way they've been able to build such a large company with us, and they've actually like led a cause that has actually helped a lot of digitization, especially in the payment space, right? So being a part of such a big group with such visionary leaders is something which we all have been very excited about right from the beginning. And I think the entire acquisition move was a testament to the fact that they believed in what we were doing, and they really felt that what we were doing can be done at a much better and a much larger scale. So that was very exciting to everybody who was there at Indus, and we continue to like have the same sentiment and even more today. Uh, so yeah, I think we are pretty much very excited for what we will bring to market in the future, and extremely happy to be a part of this new ecosystem. So if I were to take an analogy of, let's say, for example, Adidas or Nike, who wants to, let's say, sell something online in India, right? They have multiple choices. They can go and sell it on Amazon, on Flipkart, on Jabong, on Myntra, and God knows how many different e-commerce. They can also have a store that they basically have on their own. They can build their own app. Now, similarly, let's say, for example, if you created a song, you can actually go and put it on YouTube. You can put it on Spotify, Ghana, and God knows how many number of apps. So basically, the way in which you distribute your product or service is something which is pretty much fair practice that is there available in each and every industry. However, the only industry where this does not apply is in the industry of, let's say, apps and games. So if you're a mobile app developer, it does not fit the bill, right? So everybody who's probably listening to this podcast, or we are actually in the business of making apps and games, but there is only one way to distribute this, and that's something which I'm just trying to do. That's very limiting. Just imagine that if in your platform you would say no, if your vendor or if your brand is working on your platform, there is no way for you to do that elsewhere. Right? Exclusive content, exclusive partnerships is definitely a logical thing for you to differentiate your business, but an exclusion by design or by force is something which is counterintuitive to just a level playing field. So that's the kind of mandate, or that's the kind of obvious like comment that we have in the existing setup that we have today in the space of apps and games distribution. That's not specific to India, that's globally. Right? And you will be seeing that there are a lot of like talk about it in the European markets, in the Asian markets, wherein now people have started questioning that, okay, I have a way for doing fair practices in business everywhere. Why is this the only industry where this does not exist? Can we change that? And in fact, different companies, these matters are in litigation. So without like going too much like deep into technicalities of it, the ecosystem has just woken up. Different parties are just putting out their thoughts, and I'm sure that there will definitely be a eventual like a level playing field that will be set up that can help everybody in the ecosystem, not just one player or the other, right? It just competition makes things better. We have learned it in economics that once you have a monopoly, you kind of sort of have more players, you bring efficiencies, everybody wins.
Absolutely. Do you see that happening in the next 2-3 years, 5 years? What timeline would you predict?
If you were to ask this question to me maybe a couple of years back, I would have said that it probably would be a distant future, because there was just no talk about it. There was no awareness about it. But today, I think the amount of awareness, the amount of conversations that we are having, and it's at the topmost level that it can be right today. If you've been reading news media articles, and it's very constructive in nature, wherein what people are kind of sort of figuring it out. So sure that things will change very, very soon. That's the hope and positive optimism that we have. Like we are like product managers are very close to entrepreneurs in terms of having like unrealistic optimism. So I say that with as much as I can. But yeah, I think should happen very soon. And it's a beneficial thing for the entire ecosystem, not just one player, but for
Absolutely.
everybody, founders, entrepreneurs, product managers, brands alike.
And I think, like you mentioned, India by volume is number one in the world today, right? Given the entire data wave that came, the number of users that are coming on to these apps only by pure volume, right? By value.
Uh, and after China, yeah.
After China, yeah, correct. After China, so
Yeah.
between these two countries, I think we have a lot of market share. But
Yeah.
with that, I think the advantage is, like, I think as the ARPU per user goes on increasing, I think we'll be a very, very formidable player here.
Absolutely. So India not only is the largest market in terms of volume, but the advantage with India is that our disposable incomes are increasing, awareness is increasing, education and internet penetration is leading to people to learn new skills and grow. In general, the economy will grow. So there's a lot of headroom for growth, for ARPU, for anything that you can talk about,
Yep.
right? And all of these ecosystems, all of these factors combined will actually completely change the way we are looking at the world. Maybe in 2030, if we like have this conversation, we would probably say that okay, we estimated whatever XYZ for India, we are completely on a different level
Yeah.
today. So forecast is also something which can be exceeded by a very large volume. So that's the kind of potential that we have.
Correct. Absolutely. I think we could go on this discussion forever, and it is that enjoyable. And we will do part 2 of this, I'm sure. But one question to end this, and this is on personal finances. In 30 seconds, I know both of you all have had great careers, great tech careers. Have you been able to build a framework for yourself personally, for younger folks listening in, on how they can start thinking about personal finance? This is a topic that's never taught in schools and colleges. It comes only with experience. So is there something that you'd like to tell maybe your younger self while starting out?
Yeah, I think the fortune. I was fortunate because my dad was very much like acted as a mentor for me right from the very early stages, wherein not only just focus on saving but also focus on investing was something which was ingrained. So like I started like planning for those kind of events, not like planning for retirement, just planning something which is coming from growth because of also a finance background. Through my education, I kind of had that understanding of how to basically do it, so I was able to like start very early. I would say that you should definitely start like putting some of your like whatever you're earning in some way. Don't like compromise on experiences or travel or anything else, because it is a very very critical thing that will open up your perspective. But maybe do not spend too much on materialistic things which do not add value. Like spend or invest in things which will add perspective to your life, which will add experiences, and then focus on saving the rest. And then as you will grow, your income will grow, and eventually you will be able to like kind of sort of save a much more significant number in the later. But yeah, in the initial stages, grow, travel, understand people, understand why things happen in a certain country or a certain city more than what it happens. Just be aware, just be curious. Yeah, that's it.
100%. And disclaimer, none of us are financial advisor, but I think it's always great to get a perspective, right? Someone who's been in the industry for a decade. It is something no one knows starting off, right? We've heard, of course, there is generic advice all across the place, but some tips and tricks that come, what has helped you on the way. Thanks for sharing that, Rohit. Chitrak, anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, I think for me, I can talk about this for hours. I think this is one of my favorite topics. So yeah, self-taught. I don't think, investing, etc. was a very big thing. Like my family just did a piece. So yeah, I spent, I also wrote the CFA exam at one point in life. So yeah, I've spent like millions of hours researching this stuff. So I think,
Do you have extensive Excel databases?
yeah, I have a proper, I have better dashboards for this than my product. Just kidding, just
Nice.
kidding. So yeah, I write like macros and stuff and everything to manage all of this. So uh, yeah, so I think first thing, few tips would be, I think invest like ASAP as early as you can. Even if like I think like if I have to share like few tactical tips that so I think first would be like put aside enough money that you can restart your life. So I think like the first thing I did after getting my job was that I put aside enough money that something happens, I don't have a job for like I have like confidence in me that like if like worst thing happens to me, I can put together my life back in 2 3 years. So I think put aside that much money, never touch it. get your insurance and all of that stuff. I'm sure like, there are many influencers there out. You can probably advise better on this. And yeah, I think start investing. Like even if you are not sure what to do, put 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees in two, three, four mutual funds. Just see how it goes ups and downs. What your emotional reaction to it is. I think that will tell you a lot about what kind of an investor you are. I think the third thing is just invest and like don't be in analysis paralysis. Like for example, I think one uh, like once something somebody said to me at one point is like if you have like 5 lakhs sitting around in an account and you're just figuring out what to do with it and you don't do anything with it, just putting it in FD, like 6% would give you 30,000 rupees. That's a free Apple Watch. So if I were to offer you a free Apple Watch for 2 clicks on the website guaranteed, would you not take that? So, just don't have any money in your savings account. Put it somewhere, invest it somewhere, see it go up, and then, start your journey from there and then it will improve. So, yeah, I'm a very, very big proponent of starting early, invest ASAP, and yeah, and then increase your risk profile. And crypto should be the last thing that you invest in. After you've built out your entire personal finance stack, like crypto is YOLO at some point. So yeah, I think like unless you are a very like you understand everything in it, figure out, put aside all of your emergency fund and everything, and then let's talk about crypto.
Yeah. And angel investing would be the last and the last thing, right? That is like close to like
I think
That's major. You should take it as a way that if you don't need this money,
yeah.
then you would do it. Otherwise, it is risky.
I think angel investing should not even like it's called angel for a reason, right? And it should not be called investing. It is like lottery ticket, like the company that I've invested in is mostly that hey, this looks cool and I want to make this happen. So it's for me, it's more like okay, money back to the ecosystem is like zero expectation for it to ever come back. Like if you have even 1% expectation of it coming back, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah. I think as operator angel,
In fact,
yeah.
yeah. In fact, on just to double click on the starting early part that Chitrak like continuously talked about. In fact, if you read this book called Psychology of Money, it clearly states that Warren Buffett, the biggest investor today that we know of, is actually being able to make that kind of money because he started very early. He's been investing in the market since 75 years.
Oh, wow.
Right? That's the reason why he's been able to grow.
Yeah.
Right? If you like see those up cycles and down cycles for 75 years, and if you're committed that long enough, you will make out of it.
Correct.
If you say I'll be here couple of weeks or couple of years here in and out, that won't cut it. So you have to be there in the long term.
Yeah.
And that's the case for any kind of an investment.
Correct.
Whether it's FD, bonds, property, real estate, whatever.
Yeah. I think cash or career, I think just be there to see the power of compounding, right? Whether it is each of these, I think if you're going to and that's the advantage of starting a little early, that you get to see the power of compounding. But Rohit, Chitrak, fantastic discussion today. Thank you so much for joining us. This was long pending, but I'm glad that we finally got to it. And I personally enjoyed this conversation. I'm hoping the three of us are in the same city someday, and get to grab coffee together. But I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. And to everyone tuning in, if you want Chitrak's Excel, please do drop a comment. And yeah, I think it was fantastic. Thank you once again for joining us.